Hello, Tar Heel Nation. What a night it is. We are living it up. This is, of course, UNC Hoops Talk podcast. I'm your host, Dan DeWitt, with my ever-present co-host, Gil. Gil, I'm gonna just let you jump in. I mean, I know how it feels, but how does it feel?
Oh man, this is the best feeling short of winning a national championship that I think I've ever experienced as a Tar Heel fan, or certainly in recent memory. Yeah, the most recent memory I have that feels as good as this is of course 2017, and then winning the ACC tournament and then Marcus Page year was a good recent memory too. Man, it's hard to put into words beating Coach K in his final game at Cameron Indoor and the images of Duke fans in tears and disbelief, thinking it was all set up for them. Coaches expecting Carolina just to let them win or something, and just to go in there and play the way that they did. The man, Armando Baycott, great game. RJ Davis, fantastic game. Brady Manick, so stable, awesome all season. Caleb Love making plays down the stretch, making free throws that were critical. And those guys didn't even come out of. Did I miss any of the starting five? Because they didn't come out of the game in the second half. Unbelievable. And Puff going in there and spelling for a few minutes, getting some experience. I'm just so proud of the team and Coach Hubert Davis and the coaching staff. Man, just props. This feels great as a Tar Heel.
It's exactly how we drew it up, right? This is what we talked about in our pre-Duke. I mean, this is what we predicted, right? I mean, go back and listen. We predicted this, right?
It's so true. We did indeed. And then I was reluctant to actually predict it on Twitter today. Basically said the score, but in reverse.
Yeah,
I
so
didn't. It was just what I had to do to make sure that it happened.
we obviously didn't, or at least again, I'll speak for myself. I didn't predict and I didn't think that we were going to win this game. Obviously, we were cheering for it, and we'll take it all day, every day, and then twice on Sunday. But it is, I think, when we did talk about what we have to do to win, this is kind of what we said. Though we need everybody to play well, everybody to be, defensively, offensively, to be engaged, to be, on top of their game. We weren't perfect, but I retweeted, I think it was Jones, it may have just been somebody else, but the first time UNC has ever had 4 guys over 20 points in a single game. We had known that all of them can go over 20 at certain nights, but first time we've had 4 people over 20 points in one game. So, I mean, that shows that offensively, obviously, we're engaged. I think, and I'll let you speak for yourself, but the way we jumped out in the beginning, I think it was kind of like what we talked about in the pre-show or the preview of the Duke game. Is I think they were a little bit tight, emotions were up, all that stuff. They missed some layups hard off the backboard and stuff like that. So we jumped out to the early lead, and then it was guys engaged. We made, some big shots. We, free throws. We and took care of the ball. I don't know if we even mentioned that one in the pre-show, but 5 turnovers in the stinking game. I think
And only one in the second half, I think. Yeah.
Yep, I think, because I looked at halftime, we had 4, everybody but Leaky had 1, and then I think they said they gave it to RJ, I don't remember it, but gave RJ 1 in the second half, so he had 2, but, I mean, stinking 5 turnovers in a game, and you go back
Yeah,
to the
that
big.
was as good of an offensive performance that this team has ever put out. To score 90 against Duke in that setting, that's yeah, they were offensively locked in, and defensively, they rebounded. I'm really curious. I'm not looking at the box score, but I think we probably out rebounded them, which is a critical stat to make sure that they
Yeah,
don't get offensive rebounds and second chance points. But yeah, credit to the players and the coaching staff for being locked in and ready to go. They were prepared, and you could tell it right out of the gate. I liked the way we came out and we're performing right from the start. I mean, it was like polar opposite from the game in Chapel Hill. So yeah, just like we called it, they come out a little bit tight, a lot of emotions, and we came out ready to play and just took the game to them. And there at the end when it was crunch time, we had a chance to go up 10, but we didn't have a great offense possession. They come down, hit a three. Now it's a 5-point game with the under 4 timeout. That's what it was like, crunch time, and we just executed down the stretch.
yep.
We played smart defense, kept them off the offensive glass, made them take tough contested shots, and that was the difference. And we executed offensively and got good looks. That Brady Manic three, I think, was kind of the dagger.
Yeah, so I'm kinda going through, we're not, saying all these comments here, but, they're coming in. We love you guys here live. enjoying the celebratory podcast here. We should have Blake jumping on here. He had to write up his post game quick blog, write up whatever he calls it, his I don't even know what the right word is, but he should be jumping on here. But like you said, kind of props to the coaching staff in that I was a little leery when he took Baycott out after one foul. I think he did it again right away when he picked up his second in the first half, even though Baycott was trying to stay on the floor. And I don't even know what Baycott. I don't think he was really in foul trouble in the second half. I think he maybe picked up his third. Nope, he
Yeah,
ended up with two fouls, so he never
yeah,
fouled again. But I think it did kind of calm the guys down. And I think the other thing was coaching wise, we took advantage of the matchups we have. RJ was working. We went to even that, Caleb, where they did the high ball screen and where Baycott rolled to the basket and then Manic popped out for those threes. He missed the
the
second
back
one,
screen.
but two times in a row ran the exact same play. He nailed the first one. He was wide open on the second one, just didn't hit it. And then we went to RJ with the high ball screen, and he was getting to the hole. He found Baycott on one. I believe he kicked out for somebody to have a three on another one. So we took advantage, and I think Duke did a pretty good job too. They knew kind of where their mismatches were and went at us as well. But we played. Manic had some good defense in certain possessions. We got on the guys. I think they were a little tight and missed some shots. But that's kind of what we needed to pull this one out. But definitely big props to the coaching staff on this one. They went to where they needed to in the right spots, and it just it just feels so good. Like you said, watching the tears roll down the Dukies' faces there. And I know we kind of went after ESPN for how much coverage they were going to give, but now that we win, I kind of enjoyed the extra glances into the crowd, the post game after. I watched some of it as we were waiting here, and as I was putting my kids to bed and stuff, watching some of the K celebration. But it just felt right knowing that we had beat them in this game. And Christian here, I kind of went past this comment already. I've been trying to scroll through them, even though we're not calling them out. But this is so good for the rivalry, and I think that's. I think that's. I mean, this is kind of how it is. Even though I did see somebody tweet out, Roy didn't lose his final game in the rivalry, but I do feel like this is kind of good for it.
Yeah,
And
agreed. Yeah,
yeah,
it's gonna be a lasting memory. Carolina beat Duke in Coach K's last game at Cameron Indoor. That is just period, end of sentence. That's part of the script and the story for forever now. And yeah, back to kind of the way the game played out. I agree with you that keeping Baycott on the floor was critical, and kudos to the way that Hubert managed it, just making sure that he didn't get an extra third foul in the first half. It was rough in those periods when he was out because in many ways,
well, they
he's
showed
my
his plus
ACC
minus.
player of the year, and I think in a lot of ways he was the difference maker in this game. But I voted for RJ Davis as player of the game because he just controlled the tempo and he was just working that high ball screen to perfection, always either making the right shot or making the right pass. Great decision making, great game, and like 0 turnovers or 1 maybe. So fantastic. Welcome, Blake.
Yeah, so Blake texted us about what was that, an hour before the game started, that he had started drinking already. So how you feeling now, Blake?
Good. Well, I was so busy I didn't have time to keep drinking. I was so busy. Usually when they're getting blown out, I have time to go to the fridge several times a game. But tonight was gladly it wasn't the same. I didn't have any time at all.
Heck yeah.
How you feeling right now, Blake? We've missed you. Everybody here has missed you.
Now, there's 2 people there and a couple of cats, so that's not saying a lot. But I've missed you guys too. Man, it was an incredible game. That was Hubert Davis's best coach game.
Yeah,
by far.
and before you popped in, I don't know, maybe you heard the end of it, but we were kind of giving him props for going at certain matchups and using guys in the right position, even play calls. Where they had the high ball screen and Baycott went low and Manic popped out. We got a couple open looks off there. Yeah, we definitely gave him his props there.
Who would have thought Brady Manic would have done that well on Mark Williams? 7'1" Mark Williams. Out-heighted, outweighted, out-athletically gifted everything. And Brady Manick played really well on Mark Williams.
But not out-hearted. You can't out-heart him.
Against Palo, though, too. He stuck with Palo on a couple of drives and he got burned a couple of times, but
sure.
Against
that team, you're going to against that team.
Yeah. Who's not going to get burned a couple times by Palo?
Outstanding effort from Brady Manick that game. Really, really good. Obviously, Big Hot was fantastic. Love shot horribly again, but man, was he clutch at the free throw line. And RJ Davis maybe had his best game ever. Now, statistically, you'll find some games here and there that he may have had a few more assists, a few more rebounds, whatever. The way that he controlled the game, when I popped on and you were talking about that high ball screen, I don't know how many times, normally we're talking about, Hubert Davis needs to make this adjustment or that adjustment. Coach K did not make adjustments well to that high ball screen. It was open all game long. RJ Davis continued to do it. I don't know if there was never a conversation that was had or there was never a huddle where they're like, hey, RJ and Armando are just eating you guys up on this high ball screen. And every single time there's an open guy at the bucket, it was there the entire game, and RJ did it masterfully.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and we talked about it again before you came on, but this is kind of what we said when we previewed the Duke game. What had to happen is we kind of had to play not the perfect game, but we needed everybody focused on both ends of the floor and everybody to step up and to play their role. And we did that about as well as we could tonight. Now, hopefully we can sustain it. Hopefully, Hubert keeps going back to that ball screen, high ball screen. And because that's kind of what his system is kind of made up for. You get a big guy in a ball screen. Our big guy rolls to the hole. A shooter pops out. If somebody helps from the corner, we got a shooter in the corner. I mean, even with Leaky Black now, they can't really come off him. We've talked about it last few podcasts. He's been nailing the corner three consistently, so he's not a liability there. I know he didn't hit one tonight, but you can't really come off him definitely not as much as we have in the past. So this is about as good as we get. Where do we? I don't know. I don't even want to go look forward yet. We'll
so
get
just
to the
just to touch on that, just to touch on what you just said, because I feel like it deserves its attention. We've come to a place where Leaky Black used to be left alone all day long. He could stand there and shoot as much as he wanted. The drive and reverse layup that he hit was due to the fact that Duke closed out on him as a three-point shooter. So he pump faked it. Duke closes out. Because the Duke defender closes out, Leaky goes around him, puts up a reverse layup for 2 points. That's because of his improved shooting. And that's because now he has become at least somewhat of a threat from range. I don't know how long they sustained it. They've shown absolutely no consistency this year. So I don't know beyond that.
Well, we don't even need to look at that. Yeah,
I'm just going to enjoy this tonight.
That's right. We're here to talk about Duke. We're not looking towards the ACC tournament. Although the only thing I guess we can say is we've locked in the 3 spot, right?
Locked in the 3 seed, yeah.
So we
would have been the 2 if Syracuse could have closed out a game.
Right, a game they should have won. Not even
they were up by 8 with a minute and a half. Yeah. But this team, this Carolina team, has been desperate for a signature win, and Hubert Davis also needing a signature win. They got it. There is no more signature win than this. And yeah, that cements this team into the NCAA tournament. Any looking forward we want to talk about is, yes, we're third in the ACC, double bye, and definitely into the NCAA tournament, a lock.
Well, and second, third doesn't even matter that much because as long as you win the first game, obviously it matters because it predicates who you play in that first game. But we win that game, and we're playing the 2 seed. If we were the 2 seed, if we both win, we're playing each other still, and we get on the other side of Duke's bracket, so we won't see them until the championship. If we both make it. So, John B here does have a question of the night here. This is similar to Gil, your poll question you put on Twitter about would you allow the Tar Heels to lose this game if it meant Duke would not win the national championship. And I voted, I would give up this game as long as Duke didn't win the championship. Now, hindsight's 2020. See if it's the same here. It is for me. I'll answer first. But his question tonight is: if Duke wins the national title this year, would you have given them this game tonight if it meant they didn't win the championship? Would you give up this feeling to make sure that Duke didn't win the championship?
It's Sophie's choice. Do I want future me to suffer or present me to be elated? And present me is elated and really happy with the feeling. So that's a tough question. It is the question of the night, but I put that Twitter poll out there. It's like the opposite of, obviously we know we wouldn't sacrifice a national title for a one regular season win, but it was kind of the other way around. Would we sacrifice a regular season win for not letting them win a national title? And I would do that in a heartbeat, but we got the win tonight, and let's hope that they go out in the first or second round.
See, and for me, it's so easy because how do you ever live it down? Like we never hear the end of it if Duke or if Coach K goes out a national champion. I mean, give him props. He's been a great coach. I think he's even been good. Whether it's the hate or as a Duke fan you love him, it's been good for college basketball. And obviously for the rivalry and all that stuff, give him props. But how do we ever live it down if he goes out winning a national championship? Like that's just way too good of a way for him to go out of college basketball. So there's no way you can let that happen. So I would do whatever it takes so that Duke doesn't win the championship. But John also puts in there it'd be the 6th national championship for Duke, tying them with UNC third all time with national champions. So we obviously
I agree with you.
can't allow
He
that.
has been good for college basketball. Obviously, he's the most decorated coach there is. And at the same time, has there been a coach who's done less with the amount of talent that has been there?
Yeah, he deserves.
Just
He deserves he deserves an award for that. The guy's lost in the first or second round 5 times in the last 15 years with the talent that he's had. That's pretty impressive.
I just think like if we had the transfer portal back in the 90s with all those especially big guys that he'd come in highly rated and they would just set screens or not play at all. I mean, he had enough guys transfer the way it was. I think it could have been a lot worse if it was nowadays.
Well, one thing that you can, in terms of that question, whether they win tonight, win later, whatever, one thing you can always count on is that the Duke fans are going to be insufferable and basically intolerable. So what I will say is that Duke's not going to win a national title. Have you watched this team?
I'm not really scared of that. Somebody asked me that too. I'm not really.
So this was something, and I didn't want to jinx it because I had the tweet typed out, and I was like, I don't want to say anything that can be perceived as like he's saying they're going to win, right? I didn't want to do anything to chance it, but I had a tweet completely typed out and just erased it because I was like, you know what, they're playing well. I don't want to screw it up. But I was saying basically, this wouldn't be the team of all the teams that Coach K has had, last year notwithstanding, because that team was absolute garbage. But of all these teams that he's had, right, this really isn't on the top of the list for teams that you would want defending your home court, defending your final home game, defending your legacy in terms of leaving and doing it in front of 80 alumni. Like, this team is not very good. I don't care what I mean, dude, look at the season that we've had. 23-8, and what are they? 20 25 and 6. I think, so they've got a couple more good wins than North Carolina does.
26-5.
I'm not saying they're not a better team. They are a better team, but I don't think anybody has any fear of this team winning the national title. I'd be surprised if they made it to the Final Four.
Yeah, and we kind of say they have the talent. It's kind of something we said at the beginning with our team is the talent is there. I just don't think they have kind of the right pieces to put it together where I'm scared of them in the tournament.
This isn't part of the program. I'm sorry. This is unacceptable. Wait, shush. You shush. Be quiet.
No, let me say my part.
He's acting like he's got half the guys in the crowd on that team. Like, this isn't that team. It's weird because this Duke team has some size, right? But they didn't really utilize a lot of it this game. And it was weird. In the second half, they settled for jump shots. I really thought that they would take advantage of the Tar Heels down low a little bit more. I thought Mark Williams would really be a factor. He got his rebounds. I think he finished the game with like 16 points and 13 rebounds or something.
Who's that?
Mark Williams. I just really thought he would be a bigger factor. I thought they could really take advantage of North Carolina down low. I thought they could get Bacot in worse foul trouble. I thought they could take advantage of Brady Manick, and credit to Manick and credit to Bacot. And, but
Well,
I
they
just
didn't even necessarily try to. That's what's crazy.
right, and that's the thing is that they settled for jump shots a lot. And I just wonder what this team's identity is, and I'm not sure they know.
Frankly, I don't care.
And I don't. Yeah, that's. I mean, that's the thing with K again. I don't know that he builds that as much as we do. Not that I've watched them as much, but he's kind of, especially in these one and done era. He's kind of like, we got the talent, throw it out there and let's play. And you don't build. Hopefully, that's kind of what we're building right now. Is now that we're at the end of the year, guys are finding their role. We're finding our stride, how guys work together, all that good stuff. Obviously, we've found our rotation, which is there isn't one. You just keep the five guys in and let's roll with it. But uh, but again, it works, and I feel like our guys tonight, and we said it on the last podcast as well, leading up to this game, is we've kind of meshed together. The passing is so much better. I don't know what the assists were tonight, but we talked about before you came on, Blake, is the turnovers. We had 5 turnovers, 1 in the second half. I mean, that's a team that's playing together. It's not, how many times early in this season didn't we just like throw it and the guy had cut and we just threw it out of bounds, or we try to feed the post and we just can't do it, or we throw it out of bounds, or a guy slips in and steals it. And I mean, there's so much that, again, not even just tonight, but the last 2-3 games at minimum, we have looked so much better in sharing the ball and playing as a team.
Yeah, we said it on the last podcast, and we're playing our best basketball. We're playing as our best version of ourselves, which is all you can ask for. And again, I give credit to both players and coaches for that execution. And I think one big key was the adjustment to make RJ Davis the primary point guard and have Caleb play off the ball. When
Yep.
that started to, they started to get reps with that has been the difference in this team executing much more efficiently offensively. We've seen it here in a lot of games lately. It's Caleb Love may shoot poor throughout the game, but down the stretch, we can rely on him with the ball in his hand. And that's something that not every team has, is someone that can find a way to make free throws or get a crucial basket or drive to the basket and find, cutting Brady Manick in crunch time. So this team has executed as well as they can in pretty big games, because they were all like must win. And kudos to them. And it was fun to see them do it at Cameron against a good Duke team.
Yeah, so I don't want to get too serious here and get too deep into the numbers, because I mean, it doesn't matter. We won. So we were talking. I think it was before we even went live, me and Gil. But Blake, did you see that the handshake line? Have you seen the videos of the handshake line with Hubert and the Duke assistant coaches?
Yeah, Carrawell and Nolan Smith.
Carrawell completely skips the handshake,
Yeah,
and then Nolan Smith
kind of just blew by him. Yeah,
blatantly looks. So I mean, it wasn't like just he was looking at somebody. He blatantly looked away from Hubert Davis, and
Kay almost
you
did the
gotta
same
love
thing
it.
himself.
So I didn't pay attention. I didn't really see K's. I know it was brief, but I mean, you just gotta love it from the Dukies.
I'm just glad that Hubert didn't Jawan Howard and Greg guard him. He just like kind of looked like he was surprised, but hey, at least he didn't put his hands on anybody. Yeah, but it was strange. Like, it was weird. Like, I mean, by all accounts, Hubert's like the nicest guy, right?
Right.
And seems to be well liked and well respected by just about everybody. Past, former, current colleagues, everybody. The guys at ESPN all seem to like him and talk highly of him. It's really strange, but I don't know. But we've seen Mike Krzyzewski blow by handshakes before. So what do you expect from his assistants when he's done?
Oh yeah. No, it don't surprise me at all. I just love to see it, that they're so bitter and salty and all this stuff tonight. It's good to know that without K, everyone's not going to change. We're going to keep the same stuff going on, and
yeah, for sure. That's good for the rivalry too. And
it is.
For anyone that doesn't know the reference that I made earlier about, that was K's weird response to the crowd. And we know that
his post game celebration, or
rather than coming out and being like, credit to them, they played well, credit to my team, they played well, we're going to get better. He responds like that. I mean, yeah, it's classic stuff, which I don't know how people can buy into that, but apparently they do.
So this is the thing that I find the most compelling about last season to this season is, and I don't feel like we talk about it enough. is the disparity from last year to this year in terms of 3-point shooting and free throw shooting. The last 2 seasons that Roy Williams was at North Carolina, and this isn't a reflection of him in any way. I'm not saying that it's his fault. The Tar Heels were an awful we're talking historically awful 3-point shooting team and terrible at the foul line. And all of a sudden you've got a team that tonight went to the free throw line 22 times and hit 19. And I mean, seriously, like for the season, like I'll look it up right here. So for the season, they came into this game from the foul line shooting 76.6%. So that's a really high mark for a college basketball team. And I just think it speaks volumes to something. I don't know whether it's, Hubert, whether it's his guys on staff, whether it's the focus that they put on it, if the guys have just put in the work. But that's a huge difference. I mean, even the struggles that they've had this season, getting blown out and this and that, obviously a lot of those wins didn't come down to free throws. The teams that were beating them by 20, it wasn't, didn't come down to missed free throws. There were games over the last couple of years that came down to missed free throws. But I think it's something that as you get better, and certainly if you're in a tight game in the NCAA tournament, I mean, that could be the difference in being in the first round, the second round, in the Sweet 16. They are a tremendous free throw shooting team.
But I think some of that, I don't think necessarily all of it, but some of that is who's taking the free throws. Because I think Caleb Love and RJ I don't know what their percentages were, but last year I think they were still good free throw shooters. I think Caleb hit some big ones late in the game last year.
Well, so Caleb Love is over 86.
How many times weren't we feeding the post and it was Baycott and Day'Ron Sharp, those big guys shooting the free throws. Garrison Brooks, and they weren't good. I mean, I'm not the team
back of the iron.
Again, I'm not saying that's everything, but obviously the 3-point, there's no question. I mean, we had Kerwin Walton, who we allowed, if we were the coaches, we would have allowed to take a 3-pointer last year, and that's about it.
Okay, so let's look at the season before. Okay, so Day'Ron Sharp isn't even there. Kessler's not even there. They were 68.2% 2 seasons ago. Okay, last season from the free throw line, they were.
While you're looking that up, if you want the answer to this question, it's on the Hubert Davis show. He answered my question this past week on the Hubert Davis show, why they're shooting better. So you can go check that out.
Okay. Is that some kind of a shameless plug there?
Yeah, no plugging other podcasts. Gil. We got a hard enough time here.
Yeah, you're plugging someone else's podcast from your own.
They got enough listeners.
So 3 years ago, it hasn't been since we had, which think about it. Obviously, Luke May, Cameron Johnson, Kobe White. I mean, they shot 74%. That was a lot of good shooters on that team. Kenny Williams, right? Brandon Robinson. So this team is shooting incredibly well from the free throw line.
Oh, for sure. There's no doubt. And I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying we fed the post so much and we had big guys that weren't necessarily good free throw shooters. Right now, I mean, Caleb and RJ are outstanding. Baycott is, I don't know what his percentage is, but he's better.
69.6. So he is almost up to 70.
Right. I was going to say he's better.
At a career high. He's at a career high.
Yeah, he's definitely better, and he's not
Leaky is a great free throw shooter. The guards, I mean, that's so crucial in late games, and that can definitely, as Blake said, be the difference in a win or a loss in the NCAA tournament. I think it's been the difference in wins and losses here down the stretch.
So we talked about it last podcast, and Blake, you obviously weren't there. Thanks for joining us tonight. But what about the whole live by the 3, die by the 3? Again, we're a much better 3-point shooting team this year. But are you worried that's kind of what gets us here in the NCAA tournament? Is we just go cold or get a team that just sells out, not giving up threes on us? Hopefully in that case we feed Baycott and he just eats them up and we still advance. But is there a game in the round of 32, Sweet 16, where we just go cold and that's the end of us because we do shoot a lot of threes, even though we do shoot them better?
I mean, I think that just depends on matchups. I mean, I know that's simple to say that, but so a few years ago, the Tar Heels played Texas A&M. I remember this game vividly. Played Texas A&M in the NCAA tournament. And this is a time where we've got a very small team, right? Luke May is like your big guy. Well, so of course you get matched up with the Texas A&M team that has like 3 guys that were like 6'9" or taller, and every single one of them was built like Julius Peppers. And they just got destroyed. And if I remember right, they lost that game by 21 points. And it had nothing to do with anything more, honestly, than just a size disadvantage. So it's really all about matchups. Like, if the Tar Heels are able to take advantage of a team inside, I think they will. I don't think they're necessarily like, just like, hey, we got to shoot 23 3-pointers every single game. But I think that Hubert is a good enough coach, even though people don't give him credit, that if they've got a massive size advantage against somebody, I think he's going to tell them feed the post. And Bacot just has to be good enough and patient enough and disciplined enough to not get into foul trouble, because once you lose Bacot, your game changes.
Well, we saw it tonight with a plus minus. I mean, they showed that over and over. We were, I don't know if we got up to 30, but we were plus mid-20s with him and minus 11 or whatever it was without him. So yeah, I just fear that even if Bacot has a size advantage, if people, just collapse on him, if we're cold from the outside, because how many times haven't we played a team and they just, even Duke teams, I remember some of the Jay Williams teams where they just shot a lot of threes and then they just have an off night and they lose to a team that they just shouldn't because they weren't shooting well. And yeah, I mean, obviously matchups are huge in the NCAA tournament, but I just fear that. So wanted to get your 2 cents there. So let's run through some comments here. Going back here a little bit, Bacot and Coach hugging. I didn't see that after the game. So 300, yeah. If you sent that, it's probably out on Twitter. But if you want to send that to me, I haven't seen that yet. I did see that Armando FaceTimed Coach Williams after the game. I haven't seen like the video, but I saw somebody tweet that he did that. So that's pretty sweet as well. I would have loved to see Roy in the crowd tonight for this one, but John B says if you find a way to listen to Joan Angel's call, final call of the game, he's pumped and hoarse. I haven't heard that yet either, but we don't want to pump up him too much either. He's not on this podcast. So, and then Gil, you said you wanted to read this comment.
Yeah, amen to the foul line. It was like being back in the 90s with Coda and Shamon Williams again. And I just wanted to read that because I had the great privilege of meeting Shamon on Wednesday night. He's an assistant coach at Old Dominion, which is here in Norfolk. And so I went to the game and hobbled. I still have a broken leg, so I had to get down to courtside so I could meet him pregame. And he was very generous and one of my all-time favorite Tar Heels. And I remember many key games, even in the ACC tournament, to win against NC State that one year, of him making free throws, and he was clutch. So I've really enjoyed seeing this team be clutch at the free throw line for sure.
Yeah, I feel like he was percentage-wise the leader for North Carolina for a while. I don't know if he still is, but yeah, I remember him he was over 90% just clutch from the free throw line as well. So John says,
and I wanted to say one thing about what Blake was talking about. I agree with the matchups in the NCAA tournament, and I agree with Dan too. An off shooting night can get anybody. But the one thing I was thinking about is I believe this team has shown some decent versatility offensively of late. Even the NC State team, now I know they're a poor team, but they went inside early and often in that game. And so I think this team can go inside and sometimes goes inside when you don't expect them to go inside and, can hit outside, thinking of big shots late against Syracuse, big shots late against Clemson and other teams. So I like offensively where this team is. I wish we had more depth, of course, to go with it.
Well, for the absolute bevy of big men that they had last year that they didn't really need, and I say that loosely, this year they could use one more. They could have used one less last year for sure, because you kind of just, obviously you've just got Kessler just kind of sitting around on the bench doing nothing, averaging 8 minutes a game for the season. And we could go into how they were playing Garrison Brooks way too much. But, this year is when you really kind of need another big guy. Maybe not a guy that's worthy of starting, but a guy that's good enough to come in and eat up 15, 20 minutes and be effective. Because, man, not just Armando Bacot, but like the starters played like the entire second half.
They did. There was no subbing in the second half.
And that's like NBA 2K. It's like where you guys are just like gassed and you're just like, well, whatever. Like I got to win this thing.
You see the bar going down.
Yeah. And then somebody tears their ACL. Like, it's just at some point that isn't going to work. I don't honestly know how in that environment. Maybe that's part of what it is. Maybe it was just that environment, the adrenaline, but this whole conversation,
it's not sustainable.
This whole conversation's different if those guys are gassed at the 8-minute mark and then they just start, huffing and puffing and they end up losing by 15. We've seen that this year. Mm-hmm. We've seen where this team was close in a game and then the guys were just absolutely gassed and had nothing left, and then lost by a fairly large margin.
Yeah, and I would say especially Manic. There's been several games where we get down to 3, 4, 5 minutes left, and he's just like hanging on his knees and holding his jersey, and
Loses
you
his
can just tell
legs, and he's not shooting as well. And
yeah. So as we
I'm
get into
gonna
some of these,
say Walker Miller, not Walker Kessler, but Walker Miller would be an excellent guy to come in and fill in that 10 to 12 minutes, 15 minutes on a night when maybe there's some foul trouble.
I would
a guy
love to
like that would be good.
I would love to see how he would be playing, in on this team. But let's be real.
Well, I was gonna say, is he get the minutes in the first place?
Guys, 4-star recruits, 4 and 5-star recruits can't get in the lineup. So is Walker Miller going to get in?
So
I don't know.
Well,
that's
at
what
a
I was
position
gonna
that
say.
he's needed, maybe. But I'm going to play somewhat of a devil's advocate just by saying I agree with you. Obviously, wish we had the depth, but at the same time, these guys are, they're well seasoned. They've been getting a ton of minutes, so they should be in excellent shape.
Yeah, but I think there's definitely something to this environment tonight, just the adrenaline, holding them through the whole way, because there's been so many games where they're so gassed, and then it affects shooting and rebounding, all that, defense, all that stuff. And so I don't think it's sustainable, because you're not going to see this environment again. I mean, this is once in a lifetime, not even once in a season. Like, you're never going to see this kind of environment again. So especially going into ACC tournament and then into the NCAA tournament, when the first couple of rounds, when you're first round, I guess we're expected. I don't know what we're going to be, if we're going to be predicted to win after that. But
okay, so
does this move us? Where does this move us on the needle?
Hold on,
like
let's jump through some of these comments really quick. So we just need a little break here. So Clint says tar, so everybody says
Heels.
All right. And so John wants your gas card from, that's referencing the Insider podcast where your question was answered by Hubert Davis.
I haven't gotten it yet. I don't know.
Nobody's even contacted you?
No.
Everybody stop listening to that podcast. Just stick to this one. Just subscribe here and forget Jones and Adam. Now, I think that was actually the radio show, right?
Yeah, that was the radio
podcast,
show.
So that Duke team lost to a team of 5, and it was glorious. John answered as well, heels. And then Clint here says that Coach Davis will recruit his players, then it won't be the Iron 5 playing 40-plus minutes. So, yeah, that will be interesting. Again, we'll get into that stuff later. We're not going to talk about recruitment and all that stuff. Christian says, should RJ and Caleb Love permanently switch positions? I don't know if it's really switching, but I do think, kind of like we were talking about earlier, especially in crunch times, I don't really care who takes the ball up, but for RJ to kind of facilitate stuff when it's getting later into the game, like we saw tonight. And maybe it's a game by game thing where if Caleb's really involved and he's on and all that stuff, maybe he takes the lead. Tonight RJ was phenomenal, and so he took the lead. But I think there is something to RJ kind of facilitating our offense. I don't know. Again, I know Gil, you've talked about that already. I don't know if you guys want to pop in on that question at all. Otherwise,
I don't know that. I don't feel like they've ever had solid positions.
No.
That's been the thing. I don't think that they've had, really like, I'm doing this and you're doing that. And I think that's been part of the problem. I don't think either one has had a specific role. I think they've both sort of tried to play the same role. And yeah. I've gone back and forth on this season, because there's been games where RJ Davis did not play well as a point guard. Tonight, he was phenomenal. He was terrific. He was great with the ball. He took care of the basketball. He facilitated well. If he didn't get the assist, he was passing to the guy that got the assist. He, like we talked about, that high ball screen. Okay, the couple of times, did you notice those couple of times where he went and dribbled like under the basket and ran completely around?
Yep.
I mean, I don't even know who he was tonight. Like, he was fantastic. And then, I mean, some of the clutch shots he was hitting, he was terrific. Like, if that's the RJ Davis that North Carolina is going to get next year, yeah, I mean, look out.
Well, he went up with one of those underneath there, and he didn't get the foul called. And so the next time he kind of paused, and then he was out of there. And it makes a lot of sense. Dribble up. I mean, how many times don't you hear that? Is dribble in, just don't pick up your dribble. Just keep going, especially as a little guy in there. And somebody cuts and you get a layup, or somebody's open for a 3. Yeah.
So, okay, so one thing we know,
fluid.
The Tar Heels are solidified in the NCAA tournament. They're 100% in. No matter what happens now, they're in.
Yep.
But I want your guys' opinion. Did tonight sew up ACC Player of the Year if it wasn't already sewed up.
I think it's got to. I mean, I saw watching that Syracuse game. They said Buddy took over like the scoring leader or whatever. So now that guy from Wake Forest isn't even, because his kind of claim to Player of the Year was leading score and leading assists in the ACC, right?
Because it hadn't happened like in forever,
and so he doesn't have that anymore. And then
which obviously we're talking about a 1 point difference. It's
right.
silly and negligible, but you are right. I don't honestly think that would have mattered anyway.
I don't think so either.
I think if I were voting today, I think it would be, and this is as objective as possible, I think it would be Bacot 1, it would be Alondas Williams 2, and Paolo would be 3. Paolo will obviously be Freshman of the Year, but I would go Bacot 1, Alondas 2. And actually, I think when the voting happens, I think you'll be surprised how uneven it actually is. I think people right now think it's very close. I think the distance between Bacot and Banchero is very sizable. And I actually think that there's going to be another guy sprayed in between them that people don't expect. So we'll see what happens. But I even tweeted earlier, after the game, I said, Bacot Player of the Year, book it. It's done. It's over. Yeah. And I thought it was before this game. But I think this game, whether voters want to say this or not, I think optically they go head-to-head, play similarly, but Bacot was huge in the second half, instrumental in them completing one of the biggest upsets we've seen in college basketball in a long time, because they were never supposed to win this game.
Unranked, double-digit underdog.
Yeah, 11-point underdog. Never supposed to win the game. They got blown out by 20 the last game. Like, this was a game that 80 former players were in the stands to watch a Duke victory, and it didn't happen. And I think this game kind of maybe pushed it a little bit farther, but I think Bacot was already the Player of the Year.
I think whether he was or not, I think he should have been. And this one just, either swayed people or solidified it for people.
I agree. And for me, defensively, he made some key defensive plays. That block in their fast break on Griffin was a really big play. And then down the stretch, contesting shots and getting defensive rebounds. I mean, to lead the conference in rebounding, field goal percentage, and double doubles, he's ACC Player of the Year, hands down. He should win it unanimously. And I agree. Banchero, Freshman of the Year. Alondas Williams for Wake, strong season. But yeah, Bacot, he was Player of the Year for me before the game, and most definitely cemented that with an exclamation point here tonight.
Well, you heard the stats that Dan Schulman was saying. It's like the stats that he's put up in ACC play hasn't been done since Tim Duncan, arguably the greatest power forward to ever live. So, yeah, I feel like probably ACC Player of the Year.
Yep. And he should be on All-American teams, whether it's second team, third team. I think
he'll be on some team, but you can bet that he's going to get screwed some way, because so the fact that he wasn't on the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar list, like, that they put the list out. Did you guys see this? They put the list out. His name was on it. It's a 5-name list. They released the list officially. He was on it. They deleted it, re-released it, and he was off of it, and he was replaced with someone else, right? So the fact that he wasn't on it, I think he should have been on it anyway. But that they released it with him on it and then said they did it in error was just like, oh my gosh. So, I mean, I think he'll end up being a third-team All-American. I think that's where he'll land. And if he doesn't, it's crazy. But regardless, he's going to have his jersey in the rafters because he's going to get multiple criteria for that. So I think, he's putting together a pretty good UNC career.
Is ACC Player of the Year one of them?
Yeah, ACC player. He'll be first team All ACC. He'll be ACC Player of the Year. If he makes any All-American team, there's quite a few criteria, but yeah, he's going to hit several of them.
I don't know if we want to touch on this, but is there any chance he comes back?
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, I think there's a chance. I don't know. I'm up and down on that.
I'm not saying 100% right now that he will, but there's definitely a chance.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. There's a chance, but
I don't think
at some point you kind of done what you've done, and
I think he's proven what he wants to prove. But
right now, the only thing is,
through it and comes back.
Yeah, and also he's never struck me as a guy that is just really, really rushing to get off campus. Right. Like, look at Kofi Coburn at Illinois. Like, if he leaves last year, he's a lottery pick. Guy comes back when nobody expected him to come back. He's averaging like 21 and 10 or 21 and 10 and a half. I mean, really good player. Like, I don't think it's unreasonable to think that Bacot could come back. Now,
Well,
a guy like
especially
Paolo Banchero, obviously he's never coming back. He
right.
hasn't actually unpacked his bags. Bacot, I could maybe see him staying, but you're
Well,
right. The more things he adds up, the more accolades that he adds up, you don't want to, and I'm sorry for saying this, but you don't want to Garrison Brooks yourself, right? Like you have a tremendous season, you look really, really good, you come back. Because if he comes back, you know who preseason ACC Player of the Year is, and it's not even close. ACC preseason Player of the Year is Armando Bacot if he comes back. It doesn't matter who else is in the league. It doesn't matter who Duke brings in. It's going to be Bacot. So you would have to have the absolute most flawless season to beat what he's done this year.
Right.
And it's going to be hard to do that. So his stock may never get higher. And he's risking his own stock by coming back. But having said all that, who knows? Maybe he does.
Yep. Well, I think it helps that they've now pushed it back where you can go through everything, you can get the
before
advice from
making a
everybody,
decision.
and then and still come back late. Get an agent and all that stuff, and still come back. So that helps us. But yeah, I mean that risk is definitely real. I mean we've seen it. Even shoot, who was that? I'm gonna blank on his name now.
I forgot that Garrison Brooks was preseason Player of the Year, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. Yeah, because he averaged like 16.8 and 8.5 the year before, and shot really well, and he was, by all accounts, he looked like it, but it just didn't work out like that after that. He wasn't really, that senior season, he wasn't really playing in a system that worked for him very well, and he was playing with a whole bunch of parts that didn't fit. I don't think it was just his fault, but I personally would love to see Armando back. I think that he really works well with this team. And I think that the nucleus of this team will still be together. So I think it could work really well. And I think that having a guy like Jalen Washington to come in there and spell him, having Dontrez Styles have another year under his belt, guys that can come in and really, I think, play well in the front court. And obviously, I think you get RJ Davis back. I think Kerwin Walton, hopefully, if he is there, takes a step forward. I don't know if Caleb Love is going to be there or not. That I don't know. You've got to hope that DeMarco Dunn gets some more minutes.
Yeah. Well, and again, we're getting way far ahead of ourselves. We're trying to concentrate on tonight.
I'm concentrating on everything.
We'll talk about roster stuff in the offseason. But that's the thing. I mean, if you want to talk about it, we have no idea what this team's going to look like next year because of the transfer portal and all that stuff. I mean, obviously, Caleb Love could go through and I mean, I think he could get drafted. I don't think it's going to be necessarily high, but he could definitely leave. Bacot could go through that whole thing, but I think we have to be more worried about the transfer portal and that stuff. If we say the core is going to be back, minus obviously Manic can't, and then we bring in some good depth. I mean, this team looks great next year, but I mean, who's to say that we don't lose some guys and who knows what we bring in? I mean, we did pretty good in the transfer portal this year. I mean, who knows if Huber doesn't go that way again and try to bring guys in. And I mean, we have no idea. So we're way ahead of ourselves. I think we've kind of ran the gamut tonight. Is there anything else about tonight that you guys wanted to highlight or just celebrate or at least acknowledge?
I'm going to go with the transfer portal. Brady Manic pickup, so huge. And I'm going to have sweet dreams of his 3-point stroke going through at Cameron Indoor. That guy played clutch in both games. The moment was not too big for him in either game. And man, I'm just, so that's my last takeaway on a great team performance, of course. But
hey, I would say credit to the refs because I don't think the moment got the better of them. I think there was bad calls both ways. I think there was some that, Baycott got away with. I think there was some stuff they got away with, but overall, I feel like it was a pretty clean game. And the refs didn't, because didn't everybody predict like there's no way the refs don't allow K to win his last game and stuff? And they just called the game and it was good. I mean, how great is it when the game's done and nobody's talking about the refs? And that's exactly how it should be. And that's what we had tonight. Blake, you got anything on tonight?
No, I'm happy. I'm glad that
we like these late nights with Blake. We just chill.
I'm glad that they could ruin it for everybody there. And I love all the new crying memes that we have. That poor redheaded girl is going to be seen everywhere now.
Gosh.
Anytime anyone's sad, it's going to be like Michael Jordan's face on one meme and her face on the other. and
Well,
she
that's not so
is.
bad if you're right next to Michael Jordan, though.
Yeah, she'll be. Yeah, she's in good company. But yeah, I mean, I think when she went to the game, I don't think she was expecting to come out, famous, Twitter famous at least.
Yeah, it's probably the wrong thing to be famous for, but I mean, if you gotta be, you gotta be, right? I think about all the people that paid all that money. They were talking about it pregame of somebody paid 150,000 or whatever for the front row seat, or one guy went said you don't want to know how much he paid for his front row seat and stuff. All those people, to get in there and for us to come away and spoil it. And there is a video out of Caleb kind of talking to the crowd as the seconds were dwindling off the clock at the end of the game, and kind of as yeah, there we go. If you're watching the video, Gil's got it up there, just talking trash. And I love Eric Hoots in that video. If you haven't watched, pick him out. Just how crazy he's going. Like that's every UNC
Yeah.
fan right there, just going. That's allowed to be around the team anyway, just going crazy. So. I think we got to kind of end it there, wrap up. We've gone long enough. We definitely love everybody that's joined us here live. I know last year, as we got into the ACC tournament and into the well, we were only in one game in the NCAA tournament, but we did a lot more of these post-game kind of breakdowns and just kind of talking about stuff. So we'll see if we can pull something that off. Make sure you're subscribed. YouTube is the best place if you want to catch it live. But otherwise, if you're listening to this later, we hope you still enjoyed just kind of us celebrating the big win over Duke in Coach K's last home game. And make sure you're subscribed so that stuff pops into your feed, whatever podcast app you're using. But really, we're gonna end it with 300's comment here off YouTube. We did that. We did that tonight. We walked into Cameron and we did that.
Yeah, I'm gonna go take a shot for every single Caleb Love free throw. So I'll let you guys check out the box score. Text me in the morning to see if I'm alive. Okay.
All right, everybody. I guess tonight we have to say be safe and go Heels.
Go Heels.